So, we just came back from a fantastic trip to Israel. One of the things we ran into was a whole lot of interesting characters on the planes and at the airport.
Absolutely.
Don't let these be you. We had a wonderful trip to Israel. Of course, it meant a couple of very long flights. As part of any time you go to the airport, you're going to run into some interesting people, and we really ran into some interesting characters.
Yes, for sure. Talk about the ugly American.
Oh, my goodness. It kind of brought to mind that these are kind of things that you don't want to be on an airplane or at an airport. Or some of it will even be some advice of what not to do when you fly. As an example, when we were waiting at Kansas City to hop on board our plane, and right next to our gate was another gate with a plane going to Houston. And they were making announcements. Passenger so-and-so, you need to come to the gate immediately. Boarding is about finished.
Final call.
Final call. Passenger so-and-so, please come to the gate immediately. Your flight for Houston is about to leave.
Last final call.
Last final call. The door is closing now. If you don't show up, you will miss your flight. And you're listening to this, and they're repeatedly naming the passenger. Apparently, they're not showing up. So, right about as I get back to our gate from my little excursion, they had closed the door, they backed the plane up, and as the plane had actually gotten out to the tarmac and it was ready to turn and taxi to take off, all of a sudden, the lady shows up at the counter.
And I should say, I didn't even see the plane anymore from where I was sitting, so it had gone out a little bit.
The plane was done, and all of a sudden, here's a lady at the counter pitching a fit. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me I was leaving? I didn't know. We've been surrounded by all these passengers who were boarding already. There's no way you could have missed the fact they were getting...
She said she was sitting right there the whole time, and she got aggressive, like as if that would help her situation at all, shoving her finger into the poor lady's face, saying, "You cannot tell me I wasn't here. I've been here the whole time, and you know that I haven't moved, and you did not make the announcements." And just like some angry people I've dealt with on my job, she starts to try to shove her way in between them, like as if maybe they'll turn the plane back and it'll come back for her, and maybe the lady will sit on timeout for her. It would not end this conversation. And I went over there, and she looks at me kind of nervous. I said, "Just want to say thank you so much for all that you're doing and your adequate announcements and your clear announcements for all of us." But the woman didn't hear. She just kept on screaming for the longest time.
There was no way this woman had been sitting there, because they had announced it so many times, so blatantly, and with the crowds, there's no way she was sitting there. If she was sitting there, she had, completely tuned out of reality.
I was thinking, is this where we are in America? We think planes come back for us now?
No, the plane did not come back. She missed her flight because she wasn't paying attention or was off somewhere else.
Much to her surprise.
I'm pretty sure they booked her onto another later flight. Mm-hmm. And honestly, where I saw the plane sitting, I honestly think that if she had come up and said, "I'm so sorry, I was doing something else, or I wasn't paying attention, I messed up and I blew it," they were at a spot when she first started that they probably could have pulled the plane up and gotten her onto it if she had been apologetic and nice. But because she decided to yell and scream and be rude at the ladies, "Bye, plane!"
She's very belligerent.
Yeah, she was not polite. That wasn't the only weird character we had waiting for our first flight, though. We had a nice Muslim family that was sitting next to us, well, just on the other side of the row. So we're sitting here, and they were kind of sitting right over there.
Very discreet, head completely covered, neck completely covered, very quiet and respectful.
And then all of a sudden, this guy comes up, and I think it was just the mom sitting there at that point. No, it was the daughter. Mm-hmm. Daughter, who's probably 14, 15 years old. Mom and son are off taking care of something real quick, and this guy walks up. "Hi! So, are you on this plane?" Just starts, young girl anyways, and he's like this, and...
He was acting like he'd had a little bit too much liquor. When the mom comes back, He ended up sitting right next to her, and he
practically sat on her lap at one
said,
point.
"Do I make you uncomfortable? Hi." He just was so obnoxious, was loud and aggressive enough that I was pretty sure that he was intoxicated. And when you're intoxicated and you're aggressive, facing off with someone makes it worse. And yet I felt so much pity for her that eventually I looked over there and she was trying to squeeze herself over on top of her bags to get away from him. I said, would you like to sit here by me? And I moved my bags off, and she just jumped up and sat right next to me and said, thank you.
Her son was wonderful. Her son was probably like 16, and he was great at kind of running interference and sitting there and letting this guy yak his ear off.
And trying to look interested.
But this guy was just so inappropriate. Like I said, he's flirting with the daughter, who's like 14, 15, and then he turns around and he starts flirting with mom, obviously drunk. And I'm like, dude, grow up and get a hold of yourself. And then what really got me, as he's flirting with the woman, I mean, very obviously and very badly, hey, you're kind of pretty. My wife and my daughters are so ashamed of me when I fly.
That was before the flight even began.
Don't drink before you fly. And don't flirt with other people like that. Oh my goodness. It's just rude and disrespectful and really embarrassing. He was drunk enough, honestly. I was kind of wondering if they were even going to let him on the flight. That was the flight from Kansas City to Newark. Then from Newark, now we're flying United. When I flew to France, Delta gave everybody the sleeping masks. So that way you could leave your window open if you wanted. United didn't do that. They turned off the cabin lights and they expected every single window to be closed, which, honestly, I like looking out the window when I fly.
For almost, 9.5 hours with the window closed?
Yes, 10.5 hour flight, and we were like 9 hours with the windows closed.
I tried to crack it a little bit as we were 3 hours before landing in Tel Aviv. A cranky person in front of me screamed at me, "You need to close the window. We are all trying to sleep."
It's 2 in the morning and I'm still trying to sleep. And it was about that tone. And I kind of looked at her and says, well, it might be 2 in the morning in New Jersey, but we're going to Israel and it's not there.
I said, okay, dear, if you wish, dear.
But we had only cracked it like this much. It really wasn't even much.
The same lady was very interesting because she made a lot of fights with a lot of people. She had an overhead bin that was really high above her, and she was very concerned about her things, to the point where she got up 20 times maybe.
I think it was closer to 10, but it was a lot.
Standing on her chair, she stood on her chair, reached in, and would feel around. Occasionally, she'd go in front of her to the person sitting in front and stood on their armrest and was feeling around. At one point, her husband across the aisle gets angry with her and is like, what is the problem here? She says, well, their stuff is touching my luggage now in the overhead compartment.
Somebody threw their things on my stuff. Now, there's been nobody else in the overhead compartment the whole flight, and she's been in it a half dozen times already. And she's mad because somebody mysteriously in invisible ghost form got into the compartment and moved their things on top of hers, and she's been the only one in it.
But she was very cranky, let's just put it this way. And I was trying to sleep, and every now and then I'd see her up there. I really have to give it to her, though, that she had great balance, because she balanced very effectively for her age.
She's nearly 60 years old, somewhere around there, and she's standing on the armrest. They're going, you're going to fall! And she's bending backwards. And
there was other acrobatics. We had an acrobatic in the center aisle. On jumbo planes, there is 3 sets of chairs. There is the 3 by the window, there's like the 6 in the middle, and then there's 3 on the far left. And someone in the middle center decided he needed to use the restroom.
No, it was a mom with her 2 kids. We've taxied, we're sitting at the end of the runway, we are literally right about to take off. And at this moment, mom decides that is when that her 4-year-old has to use the bathroom. And they're standing up, unbuckling, and starting up the aisle. Right as we're about to take off. What are you doing? Oh, my son has to use the bathroom now. And the steward's going, no, you need to sit down, we're taking off. But he has to use the bathroom, and he's using it now. no, he's not.
She's yes, he is. So that conversation went a while. But
not very long, thankfully. They got her to sit down right before we took off.
Somewhere in the middle of the night when George was at the restroom, there was an older gentleman, a seat back from her, in the middle area there, who decided he needed to use the restroom. And he was in the center. So I think he was about 60, 65. He stood up on his hand rest, jumped over the sleeping person onto the next hand rest, and then leaped over into the aisle. That was amazing. But what was amazing is he did it in reverse when he came back from the bathroom, too. As we were coming into the Tel Aviv area, though, there was announcements to please take a seat and buckle up.
Israeli airspace law says that everybody has to be seated and seat belted 30 minutes before landing.
About 5 Americans were joyfully standing up and feeling in their overhead compartment, and they made this announcement 3 or 4 times, and one American on my far left was just happily talking. She was at least my age, if not older. I was really surprised. I said, George, this is kind of like when we flew to Colombia, and it was like a suggestion to take your seat. So,
and, just basic things like, planes taking off, or you're told to sit down, or even take off. The number of people that are sitting there playing on the internet and Snapchatting and Facebook messaging during takeoff. I understand it's probably not going to interfere with the systems and everything, and, now you get Wi-Fi in the planes. But, come on, they've told you to turn off the internet, put it on airplane mode, do it. So I don't want to be the one on the plane when your phone causes it to crash.
So George was telling me, hey, there's someone up there with one, and I thought, and he says, I sure would have loved to have been able to send out a text right now. And I said, yeah, too bad we're not allowed to. Trying to hint that, maybe people want to follow that. But I find out that on the airways, there are a lot of people who fly that have not really gone out of their childhood or are regressing rapidly into childhood. On the way back, we had some really interesting cases.
There's this group of people that's sitting, we got the guy that's sitting behind my chair who's in his early mid-20s who thinks it's fun to kick the chair and slam the chair and bang the chair and that, shoulder block people out of his way. But the real group was this group of 3 guys and a lady. The youngest of them was probably mid-30s. Honestly, they were all 40s. They're going to some conference because we can see their computers and they're studying something. And the 3 guys are all sitting on the armrests of their chairs in the aisle, all flirting and hitting on this lady, who's got to be close to 50. They're acting like they're in high school. Even to the point that the one guy, he's got gray in his beard stubble, and he's going, they're speaking Hebrew, so we can't understand. He's got this creepy-sounding fake laugh. And
it was just interesting to observe that they had their socks off, not just their shoes or shoes in their socks, and they would block the aisle. They would forget those around them quite frequently. I'm used to seeing, as a high school teacher, high school kids behaving this way, but normally it's not a bunch of guys and one girl. It was not creepy this dynamics.
And, sorry if this sounds bad, the woman was not pretty in any way at all. Not at all.
I just told George that beauty is different in different parts of the world.
It was a lady that when she turned around and saw her face, I was like, ew! And
each to his own, I guess. The boy, though, that was kicking George became such a nuisance, we switched chairs.
Because I wanted to sleep a little bit and it wasn't going to happen.
I looked down and I see this trash in a bag, and I said, is this your bag? And he goes, how did it get up there? I guess he kicked it forward.
Yeah, he's giving us his trash. Really, I don't want it. Empty bags that have food stains on them.
And then we are leaving. People have interesting manners when the plane stops. Like, immediately, maybe they can charge up the aisle. Well, we're trying to get our stuff down, and that boy behind me starts to shove on me, shoulder block me, and kick me like this. And I'm just like, I'm not going to shove him back. However, I thought I should just maintain my spot, so I just stood calmly there till he kind of backed off after a while. I was just really surprised that someone in his mid-20s would be comfortable with shoving someone in their mid-40s around just to get their bag down. But that was not the only time. We had others that seemed overly anxious to get off the plane.
We had a couple that, I mean, as soon as the plane landed and they said seatbelts off, these two were charging up towards the front.
Yeah.
I guess they had a connection they were trying to make, but it was kind of hilarious because you still had to get through customs and passport control and everything else, and they weren't going anywhere in a hurry. But all of those things... These are things that you should not be as a passenger. Don't be a jerk. Don't flirt like a teenager when you're not one. That was disgusting.
Especially because people have to sit around you for
and listen to
maybe 10 or 11 or 12 hours. So it's very old.
Pay attention at the airport. Turn your phones off when you're supposed to. And be a nice passenger to the people around you.
Be respectful to others. Because I think that Americans often travel and we feel like everyone owes us a living, but if we can respect others, then everyone else will treat us better.
It comes back to the golden rule. The golden rule, yeah. The golden rule. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Don't be a putz.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed our little experiences at the airport and on the airlines. We had a lot of fun with the trip, but yes, there were that was kind of the moments that we had that weren't so good. Were on the flights to and from. I hope you picked up some hints, especially if you've never flown before, about what to do and not to do on an airplane. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, that way you know anytime I do a new video. Thank you to my patrons as well for supporting me. Y'all rock. We've gotten so much blessings from my patrons. Amen. If you want to know more about Patreon and supporting, or about my Facebook page and the group page and Discord and Reddit and stuff, check out the description below. There's a ton of information there. I'd also love to hear about your not-so-good flight experiences, or even your good ones. So be sure to leave comments below, too. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right there. If you'd like to see another great video of mine, there's a good one right there for you. And if you'd like to be like these wonderful people and support me on Patreon, hit that link right there. Thanks so much.